What's going on, Alabama fans? Chris Daughtry here with the Alabama Football Report by Chad Sports. If you cannot tell by the sound of my voice, last night's game was absolutely insane. So we're going to break it all down here on today's show. It is Overreaction Sunday here, so we're going to take some of the biggest overreactions from last night's game, and we're going to say whether it's fair, whether it's an overreaction, whether it's an underreaction, everything like that here on today's show. So coming up first, our number one overreaction, Ty Simpson for Heisman. As of right now, I'm just going to say time will tell. I'm not going to say it's an overreaction. I'm not going to say it's an underreaction because last 2 weeks, Ty Simpson completed 89% of his passes. This week, he did pretty good as well. He was 24 for 38 in this ball game today. 2 touchdowns. Still no interceptions for Ty Simpson. I think that is probably the biggest thing when it comes to Ty Simpson is the fact that, they still haven't, had a, turnover, at least an interception here this year. And, just going out there, Alabama also only had one pre-snap penalty in this game. Going on the road in Georgia, it was a hectic environment. You could hear it on the, TV broadcast. That crowd was very, very loud. And even in the first quarter, you had to use all 3 of your timeouts. Ty Simpson was cool, calm, collected all night long. Even when he had to go up there and change the plays, he was getting right up there on the line of scrimmage and making sure each individual lineman knew exactly what the play was going to be. Look, Ty Simpson may not necessarily, be in that top tier right now in, all of college football in that Heisman category, but man, he is a leader on this team, and there is a reason why he has that captaincy on his chest right now. So let me know down at the pinned comment of today's video. What is your confidence level in Ty Simpson? I know after that Florida State game, not a lot of people had a ton of confidence in Ty Simpson, but I think things have probably changed right now. So let me know what you guys think. Be honest with me. Let me know your confidence level in Ty Simpson. Scale it for me 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. All right, overreaction number 2, the creativity, especially on the offensive side of the ball, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, is actually pretty crazy what Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer were able to cook up in this game yesterday. I noticed specifically there were a bunch of plays in this game that we haven't seen so far this season. I'd have to go back and really rewatch it and really, dial in to see exactly, how many and, what different formations and things like that Alabama was doing in this game. But there was a lot of stuff, formation-wise and play-wise that we have not seen so far this season. Especially, they put Caden Proctor in motion twice yesterday. They threw the ball to Caden Proctor yesterday. And, ESPN called it a lateral, so technically it was a run for Caden Proctor. But just the way that Alabama was able to go about their business this week and, put different things into the install to catch Georgia off guard. Look, man, Ryan Grubb, Kalen DeBoer, these guys are insane offensive minds. Even that last play right before all the kneel downs, they put Germie Bernard in motion, and then they kind of, misdirection over to the left side. Ty Simpson spins around, gets that screen off to Jam Miller. That's not something that we've seen so far this year. So kudos to Ryan Grubb. Kudos to Kalen DeBoer. These guys put together an incredible offensive game plan against Georgia. Although you didn't score in the second half, it was still good enough to get the job done. So, hats off to the creativity from this offensive coaching staff. Overreaction number 3. The run defense still did struggle in this game. I'm not going to say that, I'm going to say that this is not an overreaction. Overall, I thought Georgia actually did a pretty damn decent job running the football yesterday. Chauncey Bowens had 12 carries for 119 yards. He averaged almost 10 yards per carry. Also had a touchdown. Georgia had 4 different players, including Gunnar Stockton, that had a rush for at least 20 yards in this ball game. Now, I'm not going to, freak out or anything like that quite yet. I thought Tim Keenan especially did a good job helping you out in the run game yesterday, but, there's still these things that you constantly see up there from this Kane Womack defense where makes you question things a little bit. Not to say Alabama was absolutely awful yesterday in the run defense game anyways, but they did still struggle. And I think, it is, correct for us to point that out. And I still do think, when you go back and you listen to Kirby Smart, he was asked about the run game for Georgia's offense as well. And he was like, hey, I thought we actually ran the ball pretty well. I agree with him on that. So going forward, this is still going to be a thing for this Alabama defense. They have got to do a better job, defending the run. I don't think they did an awful job, but still, like I said, Georgia had, 4 different players have a rush for at least 20 yards, including 2 different players, Chauncey Bowens and Dylan Bell, who had carries for 43 yards in this game. And a couple of those carries just came at, just weird times in the game as well, whether that was on third downs or whatever it was. Still think that's got to be something that Kane Womack in this Alabama defense got to get a little bit better at. All right, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor of today's show. That is Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. I use Prize Picks for a ton of different types of sporting events, whether it's professional football, college sports, MMA, baseball, basketball, and so much more. Prize Picks is a ton of fun, and if you guys know ball, you can win real money all season long on Prize Picks. We went with the power play this week, but if you would have went with the flex play, this one definitely would have cashed out for you. Went with Germie Bernard more than receiving yards. That one hit. Jam Miller went with a more than just a half touchdown in this game. Rushing or receiving, did not get that one. Zachariah Branch also went with a more than on receiving yards. He did get that one. Like I said, we went with the power play, which means you got to get all of your picks right to come out on top. But the great thing about Prize Picks is they did also invent the flex play, which means you can cash out on your lineups if they are not perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit. Prize Picks is super simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money today. So download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That link is down in the description of today's show. It's also going to be down at the pinned comment of today's show as well. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, overreaction number 4. Bray Hubbard is ice cold. I'm also going to say this is not an overreaction. Look, after that first week, Bray Hubbard got a lot of criticism online in the media, and I think rightfully so. But since then, Bray Hubbard has been ice cold. Alabama won that game yesterday by only 3 points. And, it didn't really matter at the end of the day because, that fumble that Bray Hubbard forced, did not actually turn into points. I think that was that same drive, if I'm not mistaken, that Connor Talty missed the field goal, which could also be an overreaction as well. Alabama really still doesn't have a kicker, but we're not going to do that here on today's show. We're going to stick a little bit more positive here. But just overall, Bray Hubbard, another turnover forced by him today. And then when you even go back and listen to Bray Hubbard, in his post-game press conferences and stuff, the dude just doesn't care how good or how bad he plays. 24-hour rule sticks in this guy's head. And he is, just because he's not wearing the captaincy does not mean he is not a team leader for this Alabama team. I love Bray Hubbard and just the, fire that he comes with for this Alabama defense. I absolutely love it. So Bray Hubbard, ice cold, not an overreaction at all. So who gets the game ball for Alabama versus Georgia? I personally think it should either be between Bray Hubbard or Ty Simpson, but let me know what you guys think down in the comment section of today's show. Who gets the game ball for Alabama against Georgia? Overreaction number 5. Bama is back. I'm going to say it's an overreaction for now, just because, look, we have that 24-hour rule. You go back to last year. Alabama beat Georgia in a crazy game just like this one. I guess this year wasn't as crazy as last year, but just overall beating Georgia, a team ranked at that number 5 spot in the AP poll, that's a big deal. But then you went out last year and you lost the very next week to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's coming to Alabama this year, so a little bit of a different dynamic there, but still, same exact thing applies. You have your get-back game against Vanderbilt next week. I don't want to hype this team up too much, and I think they are kind of on that same page just because they're looking back to what happened last year. They know that, they had a letdown game against Vanderbilt last year, so while I am very confident in this team, and my confidence continues to grow in this team, I'm not quite going to say Bama is back quite yet. You still have a lot of work to do. You still have a very, very tough SEC schedule down the road. So while it was a very, very good win yesterday, not going to quite say Alabama is back quite yet.